Welcome to another Telltale Books video. I'm Greg,
I'm Emily.
and we are here to talk about a relatively new release, one which hasn't gotten a lot of attention yet. It is called William by Mason Coile. And some interesting things about the book. First of all, we picked it up because this was the book club choice of Blackheart Books in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. The owner started a book club, actually two book clubs, one for fiction, one for nonfiction, at the beginning of the year. And so this was her February book for the fiction book club. And so we decided to try it and join her book club. And we had her order 2 copies of this and read it. And now the book club meeting was last week, and so now we are doing our review and putting our review up on our channel about this. So thank you to Blackheart Books for introducing us to this. Some facts about the book. This is the last book by Mason Coile. It was just published, but he died January 4th of a heart attack.
Oh my goodness.
56 years old.
Dang.
He's not very well known. He's only written 5 or 6 books since like 2016 or something like that. He's been writing, and so he hasn't written very many books. I don't believe he's written any short stories. And now he's gone, so you won't get anything more from him.
Very small bibliography.
Yeah. So unfortunate.
He's young too. How
unfortunate. But William is kind of a science fiction horror book. And I'll let you get into a synopsis. We're going to try not to spoil this.
Yeah, we're going to try really hard not to spoil this since it is a more contemporary one, even though he doesn't have more coming out. I don't want to ruin it for anybody. The synopsis basically is William and I forget her name, his wife's name. What's her name?
You're asking me.
Lois, maybe I'm forgetting things. I can't remember.
How quickly do you think I can find Lily?
Lily? There it is. I knew it was an L name. Yep, it's Lily.
Yeah.
So, basically what has happened is William keeps having these nightmares about...
No, there's a different character.
No, it's right at the beginning. He talks to Lily about the...
Henry.
Sorry. William is the doll.
There's Lily, Henry, and William.
Yep.
And then there's a man and a woman.
Dean and what's her name? Paige or something like that.
Something like that.
Anyway, so Henry keeps having these nightmares about the door at the top of the stairs. And that there's multiple voices coming from behind the door. And he's very scared of it and terrified. But in his waking life, the door at the top of the stairs is his workshop. And that is where William is. William is an AI robot puppet toy that he built. And it is growing and continuously getting awareness, though he has limited its mobility by not giving it legs. Because he's a little nervous about how quickly it is learning and growing and saying things. And it's very ominous.
Yeah, right from the very beginning, William is kind of
fucked
messed up.
He's real fucked up.
You get the sense he's a serial killer.
Yeah, he's got the superiority complex that you're just like, yeah, there's no way he's not considered hurting people or hurting anything. Like, he's a sociopath, essentially. So what ends up happening is Lily invites over these 2 work friends, Dean and Paige, I think their names are. I can't remember for sure.
Something like that.
And while they're over, Henry keeps having these things like, this guy is definitely, my wife is cheating on me, essentially. And she's pregnant, she's gonna have a baby, he's sitting there, like, worrying about this. He's trying to, he has some mental health problems, agoraphobia especially. He's afraid to leave the house. Every time he does, he feels like he's passing out. And, so he already has these complexes about himself because of these hang-ups he has. And he's sure that his wife also has those things. But as these people visit, he finally decides to tell everybody, okay, I guess I'll show you William. Like, he's not revealed William to anybody yet. But when he does, there's this weird interaction William has with Lily, and he hurts her. And so everybody leaves the house. He tries to follow them. He can't. He's freaking out. He starts shutting down, essentially. And then there's this... Dean comes back in to face him, and there's a scuffle, and he kind of blacks out during it, and then when he comes to, William shows him that from video cameras and stuff in the house, because it's a smart house, that he basically hurt or killed Dean, or this guy who came to confront him about things. And so the rest of the story is basically them trying to figure shit out.
Yeah.
You're like, how did this...
Trying to figure out and trying to fight William. William is able to take over the house's security and trap them
it's like hacking everything and trapping them, and basically just terrorizing them in this space.
Yeah, and that's... for me, that was the weakness of the book, is that I've read this so many times.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen Saturn 3? Have you seen Chucky? Have you seen... there's a movie with Anthony
I
Hopkins
immediately was
called
like,
Magic,
this is Hal and Chucky mixed together.
Yeah. And there's just... And in the science fiction world... there are so many stories about murderous robots going all the way back to the 1930s, going back to the first story that ever used the word robot, going back to Frankenstein. This is Frankenstein.
Essentially, yeah.
It's the same story that's been told over and over and over again. We've seen how Grady Hendrix can take tired old tropes and instill brilliance into them. With this book, it's just the same old story. There's nothing new and brilliant here.
Yeah. Not that it's not enjoyable. Like, I could see a lot of people enjoying this. My hang-ups were... First of all, I will say, I DNF'd this. I didn't finish it. I got to chapter 20 and felt like it still wasn't grabbing me. And I had already come up with 3 or 4 different twists that basically predicted the ending for me. And then I had Greg spoil it for me. And one of my guesses had ended up being correct.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I don't feel like I need to read the rest of this book then, if I know, I can already kind of figure out what's happening.
Yeah. There is a twist ending, and I'll give you this much. Have you read Imposter by Philip K. Dick?
Pretty much, yeah. You're right.
Except Imposter was way, way better.
Yeah. So, like, I don't want to completely destroy this book. The hang-ups that I had mostly were, one, it was predictable, and by chapter 20 I wasn't fully, like, I just didn't feel like committing myself to it if I felt like it was predictable. And 2, I felt like it tried really hard, almost like it was trying too hard to be atmospheric, and it was coming across as comedic cynicism to me. And I'm like, I know that's not what the author is going for.
Yeah.
I know it. So I feel like it was ruining it for me that I kept feeling like that to me. So I ended up not finishing it. And then, of course, in light of knowing the story, because Greg spoiled it for me, because I told him to, I felt like, okay, I don't feel like I need to dedicate any more time to this book. No. Especially because we were already in a puppet story. We were also reading Grady Hendrix's How to Sell a Haunted House at the same time. That one was grabbing me more, and I decided I just would rather dedicate my time to How to Sell a Haunted House.
Right.
However, I do feel like William is still a pretty interesting adventure.
It is, and if you're somebody... This is...
It feels kind of like young adult horror, almost.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if there's anything in there that you wouldn't want your 12-year-old reading, if there's any language or anything. I don't recall anything like that.
The concept of extramarital affair, maybe?
Well, it's intense, but no. Yeah. I mean, that stuff goes on.
It didn't
get graphic.
Yeah, I don't feel like it was particularly violent. Like, there was some,
and
but...
I don't remember a lot of language or anything.
No, not really.
This is a really good book for somebody who hasn't read science fiction for the last 40 years. I feel like
this would be a good young adult book, honestly.
It's a really good book for the person who hasn't read this sort of thing yet and wants to give it a try.
And I think it does bring up the interesting issue of what happens when AI grows outside of itself.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of...
So it's interesting that way. A lot of computer ethics involved.
Yeah, a lot of the same ideas that are brought up by books like Frankenstein or in the story Imposter or
Mm-hmm.
other robot stories about the ethics of science,
Mm-hmm.
the difference between intelligence and
Mm-hmm.
non-living things.
Yeah.
Where is that?
Where
Do you draw that
where does
line?
sentience begin and
That
end?
sentience begins. All those kind of philosophical issues are brought into the book, but like I say, those issues have been around again and again for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
But this being a new book, like I say, for the person who's becoming initiated into things,
Mm-hmm.
this is a good place to start
Yeah.
with this sort of story, because it is contemporary. It's it's not out. It's not dated in any way,
Mm-hmm.
like some of Asimov's stuff might feel a little too old, because we've learned so much about computers since
Yeah.
the 1940s.
Yeah.
Um,
And there's more to. There's
Yeah.
like 2 more laws to robotics now, added to Asimov's, wasn't there?
oh yeah, there's 3 laws. To
Yeah,
it.
there's 3 laws, but then there were 2 more added later.
Oh,
There's
okay.
5 total, I think. So yeah, there's been updates
Yeah,
to it since.
but I mean, just computers in 1941 were not basically non-existent,
Mm-hmm.
and so Asimov was totally
Yeah,
imagining
revolutionizing
everything.
things.
We've actually made that science, and so this story is written from our knowledge of computers and robotics and AI, and so there's nothing like a positronic brain, which is
Mhm.
totally bogus.
Yeah.
It's a little more realistic, based on today's computer and robotic knowledge.
Yeah. And it's kind of like if Pinocchio went haywire.
Well, yeah,
Essentially.
that's except Pinocchio doesn't become a murdering psychopath.
Yeah. Well, I said if Pinocchio went haywire,
Yeah.
if he became the psychopath, murdering psychopath, this would be that story.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it wasn't that it wasn't enjoyable per se. I struggle with anything that has kind of like a mystery or a twist to it, because I'm really good at guessing what's gonna come.
Yeah.
And I'm good at putting 2 and 2 together.
With the right writer, even though you figure it out early
yeah,
on in the
you
book,
still want to see it.
it's still an enjoyable story.
Yes, and this one to me, it was written too plainly, I think, for me.
Mm-hmm.
I like things that are a little bit more poetic, a little bit more literary.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like this was a very easy to read book, because it was done in very plain language
and short.
It was short. It wasn't
pages like most books are these days.
Yeah, so it's a quick read, but it's one of those things where like I just had something else that I wanted to dedicate more of my time to.
Mm-hmm.
So if circumstances were different, I might not have DNF'd it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to discourage people from reading it either, because I think there is definitely an audience for this book. And in fact, one of the gals I follow on Instagram had put it on her one of the scariest things she's read this year, which I was like, clearly you haven't read Grady Hendrix, but in comparison, but I mean, there are people who are gonna find this genuinely interesting and disturbing. Mm-hmm. So there's definitely a market for it, and I don't want to discourage anybody from approaching it. And I do feel like if you've got a kid who's interested in sci-fi horror, this is a great start for sure.
Yeah, we can't give it a top tail. It's not a great book, but definitely for the right person, they're gonna love this book.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, so give it a try. Let us know what you thought. Like, I can't say much more about it because I did. And I knew what was coming, so
I think a lot of the people that follow the ones I do, the videos I do on my own, are not going to like this, because they're a lot more seasoned in science fiction. And like I say, it's
more of an introduction book than it is anything else.
Same old ground without really bringing anything new to it.
Okay, so yeah. Did you read William? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you agree with us? We'd love to know your thoughts. Feel free to comment, like, and subscribe. Anything else?
Nope.
Then we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.